How are you all? Wonderful. I am very honored to be here with my esteemed colleagues, some of whom I've known for quite some time, Sal and Marv, and Rick, delighted to meet you. I had the good fortune when I lived in Washington to volunteer as a pharmacist with the Whitman Walker Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Clinic. So, Rick, I'm happy to see you here today, and you're one of the types of patients I love the most because you really know your stuff. So I thank you for that. Um, got it. I think I understand the up and down button now. I put some slides together just because I know there's a variety of people in the audience today, and I am wearing my pharmacist hat as a 30-year member of the American Pharmacists Association. But I'm sure when we get into the Q&A part, you'll understand that I have a variety of experiences and I can speak a little bit about a lot of things. But today I really want to focus again with my pharmacist hat on and talk a little bit about who is getting hurt by the continued existence of counterfeit drugs in the U.S. market. And I would submit that everybody is getting hurt. It isn't just patients like Rick, but health professionals as well. And when it comes to the pharmacy community, patient safety is why we exist, to have that partnership with our patients. And when we have medications that can be subpotent or contain things that may hurt somebody rather than help them, to the point of Walt's experiences that he shared with you, that does compromise our ability to practice, and it gets in the way. Because obviously, an investment in a medication is worthless if somehow we don't work with our patients to make sure they get the intended benefit. Now, I will say, in the 10 or 15 years that I've been involved in this issue, that the dynamics of it have changed a lot. The concerns may be different now, again, as I continue to practice pharmacy, both for an independent as well as a chain and occasionally relief work in other settings. I may look at my prescription supply chain a little differently than I look at my over-the-counter supply chain, than I look over my dietary supplement chain. And I think there are different issues for each of those supply chains as a pharmacist. I do believe in the last 5 or 6 years, since this issue really popped, and Catherine Eben did write her book, that business practices have changed significantly in the United States, making counterfeiting a different problem than it might have been 5 years ago. And when I wear my audit hat, I'm an auditor for a company that manufacturers actually hire to go into the distribution community, and we audit their business practices. I can tell you it's very different than when I went into my first warehouse in 1991. So I think things have changed, but what concerns me is they've changed in a way that might be, and I hate to use a word I did with you at breakfast, Marv, but almost more nefarious, a little harder to get after. And I think thefts have increased, and we're finding more involvement with organized crime. You are seeing some global concerns that maybe we didn't have 5 years ago, again, as a bench practitioner. And so to me, how do I keep my arms around it? And I think Sal has really pointed out an incredible concern. One of the things I do when I go work at many different pharmacies, I don't go to one particular pharmacy, so it's kind of fun, and I've been in 60 or 70, is to try to raise the awareness of the other pharmacists I might be working with or the pharmacy technicians. And it is interesting because I think the awareness does vary, so that's very important to know. I'm excited because our association, APHA, has been doing a lot. They haven't let the issue go since 2004 and 5 when things really cropped up in the U.S. They've continued to be vigilant with the education that Sal has mentioned is so necessary. So we do have continuing education pieces designed for pharmacists to help them and their patients deal with this issue. I know Marv has been at our annual meeting talking about this issue and helping educate us, and I'm excited because just recently our national magazine or journal, Pharmacy Today, has started a column called What's in the Bottle. So, and I like it in particular because I think it is getting at some of these more difficult pieces of this issue than we've had before. So you can see our issue in September had a column on the perfect crime, and it talked about the recent thefts involving several manufacturers in the U.S. And there was also another two-page article on fakes in the pharmacy. How do they get into your system, and what do you do about it? So again, I'm excited that that will be an ongoing feature that has just recently started. So I think maintaining awareness is important. In addition, business practices that prevent product integrity are key, and APHA has had policy developed in this area, and I think Marv has spoken very eloquently on it. I think examining product, I'll talk a bit about that. Educating patients, I really can't say any more than Rick. I wish I kind of had him on tape when I go to work. And then problem reporting. So I just want to quickly address that. I think the really biggest thing that a pharmacist can do is, if they're offered a deal that seems too good to be true, it probably is. It's really that simple. There are many things that pharmacists do. The Healthcare Distribution Management Association has guidelines for product distribution. John Gray will be with you after lunch today, and I think that that's a really key part of their efforts to help distributors practice appropriately through standard operating procedures. So again, I know when I educate pharmacists, or as a pharmacist, I want to know the relationship I have with my wholesaler. Do they follow these guidelines? Occasionally, pharmacists may buy from secondary sources, and if they do, I think it's critical that they outline the procedures those sources have in place in order to protect the product. And there's clearly the wholesaler certification from the National Association of Boards of Pharmacy, which is another important certification that a pharmacist can inquire about. So again, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. And again, trying to buy only what is needed rather than trying to stockpile for any particular reason is, I think, critical. So when you look at the product side, what do I do when I go into the pharmacy and I have my technician teams? I mean, I'm always amazed when I go to sleep at night that all across this country the distributors are packing up over 1 million or billion items, and it's going to be in my pharmacy the next morning at 9 o'clock when I open the door. There it is, and I just pushed the button, you know, at 9 o'clock the night before. But that doesn't mean you can't be vigilant. So the totes arrive, and there's a lot of things we do. You need to physically look at the product. Does that label look different? It reminds me of Rick's story about his Lipitor. What does it look like? What do those boxes look like? Do the markings look different? Is there something that isn't right? So we want to carefully compare that. And clearly, if we change our source of supply, which does happen, more often on the generic side of the business, alerting the staff that we've changed who we're buying from, so that when we get a product in that was white last week, it might be green this week. That's a key part of what we can do. When you dispense the product, you actually take it out of the container. That's another example where you can look at things. And one of the things that has happened in the pharmacy community is that there has been the advent of a lot of very interesting workflow systems that have the physical picture of the product right there. So that while we're going through the dispensing process, I can actually physically open it, I can check, and I can see, does it look like it's supposed to? So I think there's been some really good systems put in place to help us do that. Keeping track of old bottles and containers is a key part of it. These things should be recycled and recycled carefully. We shouldn't just throw them out the back door of the pharmacy, because it does open an opportunity for someone who has less than honest intentions. So I think that's really key. And listening to patients. I think Rick's story is profound, and I have had that happen where patients come to me with medication that they've received over the internet or from mail order or even another pharmacy, and they are concerned that they don't have what they think they should, and they want to know, can I tell them what it is? And it has happened to me several times in the last 5 or 6 years, and I was rather surprised by that. What else can we do? It is American Pharmacist Month, and for any of you who happen to be pharmacists in the audience, and I think this is an opportunity for us to help educate our patients about the medications that they're taking. What do they look like? I'm really amazed in Rick's case. Now, again, I think he's a really motivated patient, but he knew how much diluent was in those vials. I don't know that a lot of people do care. I think Sal has a point. A lot of people look at their medication as a commodity, and how carefully do they check. So I think it's really key that we work with our patients to do that. Providing patients with a personal medication list is a key part of where we are trying to go as a profession, and encouraging patients to double check their medicine and call their pharmacist when they find something wrong. Even putting in an auxiliary label whenever I work at a pharmacy where we've changed a source of supply. So last month Marv might have gotten one brand of generic, and this month we've done another. I put a sticker on that to alert the patient to help them know. I think encouraging patients to use the same pharmacy is critical. All of us here are consumers as well as interested parties to this issue. And I guess I would ask a show of bravery, how many of you here know the name of your pharmacist? Okay, not many of you do. This is even less than a poll we did at APHA probably 5 years ago. 40%, I think it was, roughly, of patients knew the name of their pharmacist. And yet all of us, how many of you know the name of your veterinarian? Okay, if you have pets. I do. Everybody kind of knows their dentist, their doctor, and even their vet or their hairdresser, but you don't know your pharmacist. So that would be the first thing I guess I would, really when you leave here today, that is one thing you can do personally when you walk out of this room, is go find out what is the person that you've been getting your medication from, what is their name, introduce yourself. And I certainly do that. As I said, it's an opportunity when I work relief because I'm not always at the same place to do that. I think you need to let consumers know that there are risks out there. I like to think we have the safest supply compared to other countries in the world, and I think Walt's really, illuminated some of that, but it's for a reason. And those, laws can change, regulations can change that can make it less safe. And I think the internet is really critical. We've been involved in an initiative in Minnesota where I live now called awarerx.org. I'd encourage you to look at that. NABP will be using that label to try to educate people about the dangers of buying drugs over the internet. So I think that's critical. Sometimes patients come to us and they're buying from these sources because they get a good deal. And I think it's key. One of the things we try to do in our profession is help people who have access issues. So if you can't afford your medicine, there are ways that we can work with patients to do that. And so I think that's another critical message. Other things, again, and I encourage those of you who are here reporting to maybe take some of these out to the consumer audience. One of the things I try to help patients understand is to pay attention to their health. Are they getting worse? Rick, I think, again, eloquent story about that. Looking at unanticipated events. If you are using injections, whether it's insulin or growth hormone, that stinging at the injection site that's different is just one of the big red flags, and that happened to Rick. To report any of those reactions to the pharmacist. Again, making sure patients know what they're taking, what they're supposed to do, and any potential side effects. Double checking their medicines to see if it looks, smells, or tastes different. Once again, trying to develop that relationship with the pharmacist and use the same pharmacy so that we have a complete medication record. And I certainly hope as we move forward, developing electronic health record systems that will help us do that. Finally, one of the key things that I do talk to patients who purchase things over the internet is, it's a big risk. And, you want to gamble with your health, do that if that's what you want to do. When we do run into problems, we want pharmacists to report them, and there are ways to do that. So in the pharmacy, if I find out there's something that looks suspect, I can report that to the FDA, and this is the website and the number. And I can also notify the product's manufacturer, which I think is key. And I did want to give you a picture of the website to do that. There you go. Whoops. Did I go too far? Am I going the other way now? Yeah, there you go. I'm one ahead. So there you go. So with that, I'm looking forward to a rather hopefully stimulating discussion, and I thank you for your attention. So.